Hello and welcome back to TNWKS, the Now We Know show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learnt something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zach.
And I'm Buzz, and in this week's episode we're going splish splash and talking all about wild swimming, which isn't a bad thing in the current temperatures.
Whew, it is hot.
It's rather hot, yes.
If you enjoy the Now We Know show podcast, support Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon or join our members on YouTube for early access, ad-free content and exclusive episodes.
So this week, as we say, it's all about wild swimming, which might be very tempting at the moment because we've just hit September and the UK has suddenly hit this heat wave.
Again, I can't believe this keeps happening.
Well, let's be honest. This summer, the heat wave has been kept down on to the rest of the European continent.
And
we've had it quite cool, which for us gingies has been really quite nice. And then suddenly we got hit, which actually wasn't too bad for us because obviously we're talking about wild swimming, and we went wild swimming specifically for this episode. But now, yes, we reside in this heat zone. It's topping around 30 degrees.
I just want to get back in water.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
So anybody who's interested in wild swimming, we're going to tell you all about that. But first, we have our new segment.
I'm excited.
Yes, which is known as
Weird and Wonderful.
And this week, it's my turn.
Your turn?
Yeah, Buzz's turn for a weird and wonderful story, which piqued my interest when I spotted it.
Piqued your interest?
Yes, in the news. So this was the heading that came up. Hikers spot mysterious spear-wielding wolfman in German mountains.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay. So I know that last week we talked about the Loch Ness Monster.
We did. And, in fact, I think in the news they had some revelation from that monster hunt where they've actually got some very compelling video and photographic evidence.
Wow, of the Loch Ness Monster?
Of the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, wow, because they did conduct a research on that,
I don't think the video has been released yet.
Ooh, I'm excited.
They did put out a couple of photos, which a bit ambiguous, look like a couple of rocks, but if you look at the couple of rocks, there might be something just behind the rocks.
But spear-wielding wolfman.
Yeah. Well, look. I don't no good for the actual listeners, but there's a picture which the tourists took in the German mountains.
Okay, I'm a bit sceptical there.
Well, okay.
It looks like a man, a very hairy man, sitting down with a spear.
Well, let me read you the story. So, 2 images captured by hikers have fueled speculation that folkloric rumours of a wolfman living in the German mountains have some truth behind them. There you go. The photos reportedly taken by Gina Wise and her friend Toby appeared to show a stick of the dump type figure. You remember Stick of the Dump?
I remember Stick of the Dump.
Stick of the Dump type figure brandishing a spear-like instrument in the forest of Harz National Park, north central Germany. The man can be seen sitting on a rock, scratching at the stone with another Stone Age-looking utensil in his other hand. Miss Wise claims that she and Toby took the images using their mobile phones while out walking near a network of sandstone caves in the park earlier on Tuesday. Ooh. She told the local tabloid, "We saw the wolfman when we reached the sandstone caves. He was standing on top of one of the caves, holding a long wooden stick like a spear in his arm." She added, "He didn't take his eyes off us and didn't say a word. He looked dirty and behaved like a Stone Age man from a history book." However, history books.
Okay, so you're saying wolfman. To me, that doesn't look like a werewolf, really.
There you go.
Or are they saying wolf-like man? Because he's hairy.
Headline catching, isn't it?
I don't think he's a werewolf.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the encounter with the strange figure reportedly lasted for about 10 minutes before Miss Weiss and Toby moved on.
Okay, that's interesting because most of these spontaneous encounters, they're very brief. It's I've seen something very hidden in some trees making a gurgly noise or something, and then somebody runs away.
On this occasion, they actually got photographs of a Stone Age looking man.
And they say this encounter lasted around 10 minutes.
Yes. And anyway,
Interesting.
so the local tabloid reports that the man or similar figures have been occasionally spotted in the area going back to at least 2015.
Ooh.
Local authorities are also thought to have sometimes found evidence of campfires being set in the woods, as well as rudimentary dwelling spaces.
Oh, that's just wild campers.
It's the wild
Bush
campers. Not the
bushcrafting.
bushcrafters, we leave no trace, it's the wild campers.
Okay.
Okay. Such stories are not uncommon in Germany, where large forests frequently yield unconfirmed stories of hermits living off the land.
Ah.
And there we go. One such tale turned out to be true when in 2007 an American man was found living in a hut in the Eifel, a mountain range in West Germany, where he also turned out to be cultivating a small amount of marijuana.
Oh, okay.
And that's where our story ends. But there are photographs of the spear-wielding wolfman.
To me, that picture did not
Well,
say
he looked a bit,
he's a werewolf.
No,
he's not a werewolf.
He looked a bit more.
He's
like
just a hairy dude.
He looked a bit more like a.
Looks like you.
Something, yeah, like a Stone Age Neanderthal with a spear. You know. So
Yeah.
when you're out there trekking in the forests of Germany,
be careful.
be careful.
There might be a spear-wielding wolf
werewolf
bushcrafter somewhere out there.
So that's it. That's for this week's Weird and Wonderful.
I really enjoyed that.
There you go.
Really enjoyed that.
Right, so on to our main topic.
Yes.
Wild swimming.
Wild swimming. I really enjoy wild swimming.
Yes, or as our good friend Chaz would say, swimming.
Well, I think he brought the same
I
question
know.
up in the wild camping episode.
I love you, Chaz. You know, in fact. So I mean, yeah. So swimming is swimming wherever
Yeah.
you swim, but let's put it into context. So wild swimming is basically when you're not going to a municipal swimming pool.
Yeah, somewhere that has been built for the
Swimming.
purpose of swimming.
Swimming. So you're out in a Lido or swimming pool or wherever, and you're actually paying for the facilities, and it's all full of chlorine. Instead, what you're doing is you're going out into the countryside, and you're swimming in a river
Or in the sea.
or in a lake, and
Somewhere.
or if you're in Scotland, a lot.
Somewhere wild.
Somewhere wild, exactly. And you get a lot of people, obviously, especially in the UK over the summertime, people go swimming and they haven't got any experience and they go and have serious accidents. And people.
It's always on the news during the
news.
summer.
And of course, the sad thing in the UK, yeah, it's really sad when somebody loses their life because they've drowned, because they've gone into deep water and they've suddenly become cold and then basically their body's shut down.
Yeah, because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, so they're on the bank, and especially like in weather like this, it's really hot. It's it's so hot. I'm just going to plunge in, and suddenly find
plunge in. I want to swim over to the other side, straight across the middle of the pond.
And of course, what happens is they don't realise that the water temperature is so much less than the temperature outside.
Yeah,
and
as soon as they hit the middle,
the muscles cramp up.
yeah, and then
they can't move.
unfortunately, that's how it goes.
And there is also another thing that happens. People love to dive in where there are waterfalls, or weirs and places like that. And
that is again very dangerous.
Very dangerous because you get all the oxygen is being knocked out of the water.
So you sink.
And you sink, the buoyancy disappears. So as you swim towards that zone, you can suddenly lose your buoyancy and get caught into that under drag. And then, so
that's it.
You know,
if you're not strong enough.
if you're not a strong swimmer or you can't hold your breath and relax and not panic and just swim your way out.
Because again, that is going to come up when it comes to the coastal wild swimming.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with like riptides and things.
Yeah.
People panic, and that's how they lose all their energy.
Again, the thing with a riptide, you know, anybody who's listening can add to this, but the thing is, if you get caught in a riptide, the riptides generally like drag you out away from the beach.
Yeah.
To a certain distance.
And to the unseasoned swimmer, you're going to want to fight it. Oh, I'm going a bit far now. I need to fight my way back through it. But no,
just go with it.
Go with it.
Because normally what happens
is it will dissipate.
It'll dissipate and then it just sort of it just drifts out, doesn't it?
Yes.
And so you need to swim wide around it to get back into shore.
That's very true.
So just relax. But that's we're going to come to equipment and everything else to make your whole experience safer.
And more enjoyable.
Yeah, so what should you have if you're wild swimming? Well, firstly, obviously, you should be a competent swimmer. You should be competent, confident, be able to deal with situations, unforeseen situations and things.
Precisely.
People get a bit nervous when they're going into, for example, rivers and things where the water isn't necessarily clear.
Yeah.
Because we've swum in crystal clear rivers. Okay, so we've been in rivers which you can see the bottom and you can see all the weed beds and
Yeah.
everything else, and we've swum through the weed beds and things, and people panic because they think that they're going to get tangled up in weed. And of course, if you're swimming in rivers which are very silty and you can't see what's in there, people sort of, their imagination gets a bit worried that then we're going to get tangled up in weed and things like that, and that can cause a bit of an issue. But if you're there and you're going into your river or you're going into your lake, you should also make sure that wherever your entry point is, that further downstream, if it's a river obviously, that you can get out.
Yeah.
You don't want to find yourself stuck in a situation where you
have to then turn around, fight the current
to get out because you haven't got a point to get out. So you need to plan your trip. And there are an awful lot of wild swimming societies around. You could probably do Google.
Groups. That's probably the safest way to do wild swimming,
never done it before,
is to do it with a friend or with a group of people that are seasoned.
Certainly, unless you are a seasoned wild swimmer, I would not recommend you go out and swim by yourself.
Definitely not.
Always take somebody with you. And
just in case the unforeseen happens and you get into a bit of a pickle.
And also make sure that people know where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're expected to come back. All those kind of things that are very useful just to cover the safety part of it. But we usually swim as a group of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And on this occasion, we went away as a group of 3. Now, as I say, we've swum lakes and we've swum rivers and even reservoirs we've done. Some of them can be a bit peculiar because in the UK, that's the thing I was going to mention earlier. As soon as there are accidents, then all the no swimming signs go up.
Yes.
Everybody has a panic. All the local authorities have a panic, and they just want to ban everybody from swimming
Precisely because they don't want the hassle.
Which is a real...
It's a shame.
It's
a shame.
And we actually saw one the other day, didn't we, on the local news where somebody was river swimming, but they were swimming in rivers that were very shallow.
Yeah.
So they were kind of using their arms to pull themselves along the bottom.
Right.
They were snorkeling in the river.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Which we've done that as well, haven't we? Over at Thetford, there was a lovely, really clear river there.
Oh, that was lovely.
Couldn't really swim in it, but you could pull yourself. Yeah,
cool. River crawling?
River crawling, maybe. But once we got upstream, about a mile, then we just let the current bring us back.
That was such an interesting thing because it was quite a lot to kind of
get up,
pull yourself upstream, and then as soon as you head back, it's like, what? I've done that in half the time.
Just push yourself off and just let the current take you.
Just
and
drift
it's just
down.
like this little rocket, and all the fish are swimming around you. And
yeah,
and that's the thing. You don't get that kind of all the interaction you get with nature. You don't get obviously in the swimming pool. For me, I don't mind swimming in a swimming pool, but I have a bad reaction with chlorine if it goes up my nose, and I can't stand wearing nose clips.
Yeah.
And I love swimming under the water, and I get chlorine up my nose, and I kind of get like a cold for about 2 or 3 days after swimming in a public swimming pool, which is never sort of fun, But I've never had that while swimming. So whether I'm in the sea, whether I'm in a river, never had that. It's always just the chlorine. So for me, the freedom of swimming, wild swimming, it's just glorious. And of course, you could be up in the mountains.
Yeah.
You can be... We went down to a place in Cornwall, didn't we, for this
trip,
episode. Yes. And we passed a place called Castle Drogo.
Yes, that is a flashback and a half.
Yeah, a few years ago, we went to Castle Drogo and we swum down there, and they've got an old Victorian salmon ladder.
That was amazing.
Which I think it consisted of about 3 or 4 pools.
Yes.
Which
they kind of looked and felt a bit like a jacuzzi.
Yeah, like the river crystal clear, probably about, well, it varies in the depth, but I'd say a good sort of 6 to 8 feet deep.
Yeah, on the side we got in,
top side,
it was a lot shallower than on the far side, which was kind of opposite to the footpath. Yeah. It became a lot deeper.
But crystal clear.
Yeah.
So the river was slow river, but then it went over into the first pool, which kind of like turned into a churning jacuzzi, then into the next pool, and then into the next pool, and then there was kind of a slide out of the end,
which was kind of a bit of fun.
Yeah, so that was if you ever fancy going and having a bit of fun, Castle Drogo. That was a good one. But this time we thought, right, what we're going to do is we're going to do some coastal wild swimming. Now, coastal wild swimming for us is not just putting your Speedos on, walking down the beach,
and going woohoo,
and having a splash around in the water, which of course is swimming. But what we like
to have a goal.
Yeah, we like to have a goal. So what we did is we planned this out. Planning is essential, and also is the equipment, which we'll come to. So what we did is we went to a place that we've been to before. It's a favourite place of ours.
Very nice.
It's called Carlion Bay. It's just next to St Austell in Cornwall. And there's a nice big car park there.
Yep.
It's
very reasonable, like car park prices. At the moment.
Yeah. So there you pay £5 for
entire
the
day. That's
up
it.
until midnight.
Yep.
Which is great. So £5. Can't argue with that. They've got all security there as well. So there's your car's kept an eye on. It's not like you're parking in some odd place in the middle of nowhere. And then you just walk down to the beach.
It's a very nice beach.
Beautiful big beach. I'm not a great sand lover, I've got to say, but there are rocks about, which is more my kind of thing. I like swimming off rocks. But the beach itself is a quartz beach. It's made up of broken up quartz, which gives it that very crystalline white look.
Yeah.
It sparkles. I had some wonderful, we'll get to the video footage in a bit, but I got some lovely video footage, which was when we were swimming, where you could see the light rippling off the sand. So when underwater, where you get those ripples in the sand, and the light was, and it was just like the whole bottom of the ocean was diamond jewels. Jewels. It was all twinkling off the quartz sand. It was absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, before we start the adventure, we need to talk equipment.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going wild swimming. You're in a place where, there's quite a few people, weren't there?
It was reasonable. It could have been busier.
Could have been busier, but it was busy enough for a beach.
Yeah.
Okay, but obviously once you get away from the beach, then
it becomes
very quiet, and you find places where there's nobody. But the beach is quite busy.
And in this situation, we were kind of self-contained.
Yeah.
All our stuff that we took down to the beach, we were having on us the entire time.
What we wanted to make sure was that we didn't have a beach base, because we weren't going to be coming back to the beach. No. We were basically leaving the beach and never to return to that beach that day. So how do you carry all your gear? Well, firstly, if you're going to spend hours in the sea, you need a wetsuit. You're not going to get away with it. You need a wetsuit, because otherwise you are going to get such a chill.
And we are not going to say get a thin wetsuit. We are talking a good wetsuit.
I mean, my wetsuit is a 3mm.
3mm, I get on with a 3mm.
And
very good.
Tina, who was with us, she has a 5mm, which for me is a bit thick for me.
Yeah, you were showing me that earlier, and I thought, wow, that is very thick.
Very thick. She loves it.
Of course. She's always going on about a 5mm wetsuit.
Because and that's the thing, when you put a wetsuit on and you go into the sea,
it's like a layer of buoyancy almost.
What it does is you have this very thin layer of water between your body and the wetsuit itself, which warms up from your body. Yeah. And you don't feel the temperature of the sea at all. No. And that's what allows you to stay in the sea for hours. It's also, if you like, a safety factor, because, for example, say you did get into difficulty and you had to spend time in the sea and get rescued, if that became an inevitability, then you're going to be able to spend all that time in the sea because you've got a wetsuit on, opposed to if just in your Speedos.
Or your trunks.
Yeah, that's what I mean, in your trunks.
And you're just going to be there,
you're just going to be
cold,
shivering and getting cold.
You're all manner of hassle there.
Now, I would also add to the fact that with the wetsuits, we also have dive boots and dive gloves.
Yes. Now, when we're talking dive boots, we're talking zip-up boots on the side.
Boots, type of boots you would use on a surfboard or windsurf.
The grip's normally very good, but from experience, I will say having the boot is better than having the shoe.
Yeah, we have got
that
shoes.
Just goes up to the ankle.
Yeah, the shoes tend to flap off, I find.
They do. So
if you get a boot with a zip up the side,
you're
and
sorted.
Then you put the leg of your wetsuit over the top.
Yeah, it's completely contained.
But
that is not coming off.
But for coastal swimming around the UK, it's ideal, because when you reach rock outcrops and places, the rocks are inevitably covered in barnacles.
Everywhere,
you've got barnacles, you've got mussels.
It's just an inevitability. You're going to find them.
What's the other word I'm looking for?
Limpets?
Limpets, that's it. So you've got all these, but they're very sharp.
Yes.
But if you get your gloves on and you get your boots on, you can clamber all over the rocks.
You become that much more versatile.
Yeah, because it's just nothing bothers you.
Yeah.
Your hands and feet stay lovely and warm.
Yes.
Whereas if you've just got your wetsuit on, your feet get really cold, your hands get really cold, and you really notice it. When you've got your boots on, you've got gloves on,
completely like you are contained.
Exactly. Now, I will say we don't wear wetsuits with the hoods.
No.
And I've never had an issue with having a cold head or cold face or anything like that, so that's not a problem. But anyway, so you are now protected both from the temperature of the sea, which, as we noticed at the weekend, do you notice when we swam through some really warm patches and then went through some really cool patches?
Well, I must say, I did do swimming as well as paddleboarding.
Yeah.
But we'll get onto that.
We'll get onto that. So you got your wetsuit, you got your boots, and you got your gloves.
Yeah.
And we snorkel, okay, because I like to explore the...
That is fun. Honestly, that is really fun.
I love to explore the undersea world of the big kelp forests.
I would say there is a bit of a learning curve when getting into snorkeling. I did find that. But when you get the hang of it and you can do it just without thinking about it, it's a lot more fun.
I mean, I learned to snorkel when I was a kid, and it's just a second nature to me. But not everybody gets on with it.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember having a bit of trouble with it, but I got there eventually.
Yeah, Tina uses one of those new full face masks. That
it's quite fun.
It's like a full face mask which has a tube out the top where your forehead is.
Yeah.
She gets on with it great.
She loves it.
I couldn't wear it. I couldn't wear it because I've got a beard. Anybody who's familiar with the show and familiar with me, I have a beard. So even when I'm wearing a normal snorkel mask, my tash can create a little bit of leakage in the bottom of the mask.
That was interesting.
But the full face
would
not work with me because it would be, my beard would be stuck in it.
So that was the thing. That must have been one of the first times I actually went snorkeling with my beard.
Ah, right. Okay.
So yeah, I think I noticed that, but I never connected the dots there. So that's really interesting that you say that.
I mean, they've improved the snorkels over the years.
Yeah.
The snorkel I've got has got like a non-return valve in it, which means that when you dive under the water, the pipe fills up with water. As soon as you hit the surface, you just breathe out, and it just blows the excess water out. Yeah. Back in the old days, my snorkel was a pipe. Yeah. It literally was a pipe. The new ones, when you dive, you can hear blub, 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 as the air comes out the pipe, and water is in the pipe, but it doesn't get as far as your mouth.
Right.
In the old days, the seawater used to come straight down to your mouth. And for those that are familiar or not familiar necessarily with a snorkel, you have a mouthpiece that goes in your mouth, and it has like a couple of protruding rubber bits on it that you bite between your teeth.
Yes.
To hold it in there. So in the old days, I just used to like put my tongue over the hole to stop the water coming in.
That's a clever way of doing it.
Block it up with my tongue.
I never thought of that.
As soon as you got to the surface,
really clever.
A good exhale would blow it the pipe clear.
Yeah.
So you blow it clear, and then a little breath in, just to make sure it's clear, in case you need to do a secondary puff. But the new snorkels, they're clear just so easy. They're brilliant. So I love those. And the thing with me in a normal mask is you inevitably end up at times having a steamed up mask.
Yeah.
So what I do with that is if I'm swimming on the surface and I'm looking down to the sea bed, I will just lift the mask away from my nose just a tiny bit, so water ingresses inside the mask, and then I can just literally move my head about and it will wash the inside of the mask.
And this is while you're swimming?
While I'm swimming, it just washes the inside of the mask, and then when I come up to the surface and lift my head up vertically, and I'm out of the water, then I just lift the mask away from my nose again, and the water that's in there just literally trickles out straight away, and seal it up, and I'm clear as a bell and good to go. Yeah. So that's the little thing you need to do once in a while. But when you're swimming, it's kind of like you shouldn't be scared to get water in your mask. Yeah. You know? So practicing things like that, even just standing in the shallows, and snorkeling in the shallows if you've not snorkeled before, getting used to the equipment, used to the mask, used to how to clear it, taking it completely off while you're treading water, putting it back on again, then you're sorted,
Now talking of being scared of things, now growing up we have done a lot of swimming around the coast, while swimming rivers and everything. One thing I have found is possibly on maybe a bit more kind of choppier days, that I do feel a bit more cautious when I can't see the bottom.
Right. Okay.
Especially when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, that's only understandable.
I think that is because I don't want a massive mouth, be it a whale, shark, whatever. I don't want to be swallowed by anything.
A basking shark coming past.
I don't want to be fully swallowed.
That's your mind getting carried away.
I know. Godzilla. It's Godzilla coming back to the fore.
I think you watch too many Meg movies and things like that.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
But, I mean,
there's another one called The Black Demon, I think, that
You've
looks
watched
interesting.
The Shallows, Jaws. I mean, things like Jaws. Yeah, it gets into your mind.
I think it.
So when you get away from the shallows and you get into the deeper water, and you got, say, 40 to 60 feet deep below you, especially if the water's a bit silty, so it's been churned up a little bit and you're losing your visibility, you can have those moments when you're just looking and your vision is going about 20 feet and then it just dissipates into
nothingness.
And then if you let your mind get carried away, that suddenly you're going to have this big shark's head come zooming out of the murk at you.
Well, that's why I have a diving knife.
Yeah, well, the diving knife is a diving knife.
It may sound a bit extreme.
No, it's
but
not
it does
at all.
have its use.
You are quite legally allowed to carry a diving knife, and a diving knife we've used before because we have found loads of fishing tackle, nets, things like that tangled up.
Even in the seaweed, you can get a bit tangled sometimes.
Well, I've not really had that issue, but my point is when you have old tackle that is lying around, we've cut that free and taken it with us, so that we could dump it once we get back to shore. But a diving knife is there.
It's a versatile tool that you can't necessarily imagine what you're going to use it for.
I think
you're not going to be fighting off sharks every which way.
Sharks,
but it is a useful tool.
It is. Well, that's what it is. It's a tool. But you never know. You never know. Sometimes people have come across birds and things which are caught in nets. Yeah, and they've been able to, simply because they've had a diving knife, they've been able to release them. So
precisely.
Anyway,
whole manner of uses.
Diving knife is a matter of choice when it comes to equipment.
Yeah.
But the other essential piece of equipment,
we haven't talked about this yet.
And all those wild swimmers that might be listening to this is saying, why haven't you mentioned this? But it is the most essential piece. Whether you are deciding to go wild swimming with or without a wetsuit, you need a drag float.
Yes.
Drag float is a must. And drag float is basically, it's about 1.5 foot long, inflatable bag, which is bright orange or bright green or bright pink or whatever colour you like. And it means that when you are swimming in the water, especially like if you're wearing a wetsuit, you become very seal-like and very camouflage. And if you are anywhere on the coast especially, or in lakes, maybe in Cumbria, for example, where you've got lots of boats on the lakes and things.
Yeah, or jet skis.
Yeah,
jet skis. We saw jet skis at the weekend.
Jet skis, especially along the coast, they can see you if you've got a drag float.
Yeah, and even especially if you're under the water.
Yeah, obviously if you want to dive deep under the water, you're going to have to take your drag float off at moments and pass it to a partner so you can dive deeper, because you're not going to dive against the pull of your drag float.
Of course not, no.
However, I purchased a dry bag drag float, which was great. Now, this is where we go back to what you're saying about we didn't make a base on the beach, because our adventure... So let's talk about our adventure. What we decided to do was park up at Carlyon Bay, and then we were coastal swimming all the way down to a place called Charlestown, where they film Poldark, and they have a lot of the tall ships in with the rigging and the old-fashioned ships going. And the idea was to spend the day swimming the coast, exploring caves,
because there's these isolated beaches along there that you cannot access via footpath or I mean maybe by boat.
Well, you can get there by paddleboard,
by swimming is probably the easiest way to get there.
Or you could use a sea kayak or something, but for most people they won't get there unless they are going to swim to it.
I mean, you could abseil, but they wouldn't recommend off those cliffs.
Those cliffs are a bit crumbly.
Yeah, they are.
So we decided to do this trip, which would probably take us on a circular trip of about 5 kilometres.
Yeah.
But you find you swim more because you're following the coast and you are swimming around rock outcrops. You're diving into fissures.
It can really take it out of you.
You're coming out to explore a beach, exploring caves. Depending on where the tide is, some caves can be underwater because we've swum deep into caves before. On other occasions, we've walked into caves before because the tide's out.
Precisely.
So needed to be mobile, which meant that going to the beach with your wetsuits, with your drag floats. On this occasion, you had your big drag float.
I did, which was my paddleboard.
Which is paddleboard.
More like a drag platform.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It was quite fun actually, because we've never taken a paddleboard with us before, and it did give us kind of like an island.
Yeah,
base.
you could literally like just sit on it.
Yeah.
And just sit there. Just sit there floating.
Every so often, I'd swim up to you and just sort of like
have a little rest.
Chat to you on the paddleboard. So we were doing this trip, and then in order to do that, of course, you've got things like mobile phone, you've got the keys to your car, you've got money. Now, good thing is, in the past, we used to take a lot of change, a lot of shrapnel with us, because back in the day when they didn't have dry bag drag floats, I just used to have a belt that I'd put around me, with a pouch that'd have all our money in it. And because obviously you took change, it didn't matter if it got wet. But these days, they even have plastic notes now.
Yeah.
Yay! So, and I know you can get little neck things that you can put money in and stuff.
May physical money last for forever.
Yeah, I don't like things dangling off me when I'm swimming. There's lots of things dangling off me, so I like it anyway. But now they do the dry bag drag floats. It's great because I stuck my phone in there in its own dry bag.
Yeah, so doubling it up.
So that was double secure. And my phone is also meant to be a waterproof phone, but who cares? I'm still not taking a chance. Car keys went in there, some money went in there. So by the time we got out of our swim, and if we wanted a drink or a bite to eat, we had some money with us. And then what we could do is when we got to Charlestown and got out, again, the advantage of having dive boots on, and in my dry bag, I put all the T-shirts in my dry bag.
Yes.
Which means that you can then unzip your wetsuit down to your waist, put a T-shirt on, and your boots means that you can walk quite normally, and then we'd walk all the way back along the coastal path to where we were parked, making this circular route. So we were both enjoying the swimming the coastline and enjoying the coastal path on the way back. But so let's talk about the swimming. The swimming was fantastic. It was very, very Caribbean, Mediterranean-like at the weekend.
Yeah.
Sea on the first day was like a mill pond. It was really...
It was beautiful.
Absolutely.
I could very, very easily and quite happily stand on the paddleboard and just mosey on around.
Because you said you were enjoying watching all the shoals of fish.
Oh, yeah, especially from kind of that elevated position. It's not like normal to see things from that kind of bird's eye view almost.
When you're standing on board.
Yeah, I can go, oh, look, shoal of fishes. Oh, look, a fish. Fish. That's really cool.
Meanwhile, I had my action camera, kind of GoPro.
Oh, yes, here it comes.
Is, strapped onto my wrist. Now, the diving masks that we use have a GoPro mount on the mask, which is above your forehead.
Yeah.
Never been keen on that, because although it seems a great idea, you put your camera in there.
It sees what you see.
It sees what you see, but you can't see
what it sees
if it's turned on, or if you. When I'm diving, I like to be able to turn my camera on. And turn it off. So I'd mount it on my wrist, and also in the dry bag I have a couple of extra batteries in there, so I can switch them out when we get to a beach if I run out of battery. That's what I've done on previous dives for 10 years. Have this wrist mount, and then I can swim along. So swimming along, and it doesn't impede me at all, being that the camera's on my wrist. And then if I get to a really interesting spot, because for example on this dive, I managed to accomplish something that I've wanted to for years, which was to catch a Cornish spider crab on camera.
It's the little things.
It's the little things.
Well, actually, it's quite a big thing.
Well, so talk about big things. There was a massive, big, sort of 4 foot long, dark blue fish, which unfortunately I didn't catch it on camera, because before I managed to get the camera turned on, it noticed me and scooted off, but it was massive. But I was really pleased to see this spider crab, and it was in a kelp forest. So you got the big kelp, so some of those, 20 foot tall, swaying in the sea. And it was just feeding, so it's got its front pincers, and it's feeding. And so I turned my camera on, and I'm videoing that. And then on the trip while we were swimming around, saw lots of different other fish that I videoed, some really big white starfish. Sea anemones, all sorts of beautiful stuff. And then we got into the deep water, probably halfway on the journey.
Yeah, it was that halfway point, wasn't it?
Halfway point. The tide was really quite high at that point, and you were on your paddleboard, and I said, I swam over to you, and I said, what's it looking like? Because there was it called Gull Island?
Yeah, Gull Island.
Which is quite apt.
Because it's got lots of gulls on it.
Loads of gulls on it.
I kind of felt that they were judging us. Look at those silly monkeys trying to swim in the water.
With their great big floats and things.
Silly floaty things. Honestly, we have wings.
Is it? And we can float on the water without them.
We have inbuilt floating technology.
So I said to you, what's the sea looking like round the point? And toward you. Unbeknownst to me at that point, I bumped my camera onto either the paddleboard or perhaps my float, because I did use my float I tucked it under one arm. So, because that's the other thing. Although when you get the drag floats, they aren't meant to be a buoyancy aid. And I don't need one. I can tread water perfectly happy. But if you want,
but it's so handy.
You can just stick your arm.
It's so handy.
It is so handy. You can stick your arm or both arms over the top of your float, and you can just float there quite merrily.
It is by no means a silly thing. It is so useful.
Yeah. So you're not going to get tired swimming. You
No.
know, if you are feeling a bit pooped, and you're not near enough to a rock or the coast,
you don't have to go, oh, I have to now swim into shore to then swim
Take a
back
break.
out again. You can literally just
grab your float
and
just put your arms over it and just float about.
Have a rest for a bit.
Float
really
about
nice.
and enjoy and just relax. Even though they generally do not, I think it's probably because of the health and safety. They don't sell them as a buoyancy aid.
Yeah.
But you can use them like that.
Well, they've got handles on them and things.
They've got handles, so we do. But anyway, I must have bumped the camera. Now, I've used this mount, as I say, for 10 years. Never had an issue. And I must have been about a minute when I noticed my camera was missing off my wrist. The actual mount had snapped. And then we were diving around and trying to see where it had gone. And
unfortunately,
no, it's gone off to Davy Jones's locker.
That is our contribution to archaeologists of the future.
Yeah, somebody out there may or may not ever come across my action cam with all of my footage of the spider crab.
Facial recognition technology nowadays. You never know. You never know.
If you're down in Cornwall and you come across it, because it's in its waterproof case, which means it's probably waterproof and good to go for years. With a. So anyway,
and it's got a brand new SD card in it.
Yeah. So if you see, if you find a camera floating around in Cornwall and it has a guy with a big ginger beard, that might be me. Let me know. But so I lost my action cam and lost all my footage of my spider crab and everything else.
You know what that warrants?
Yep.
A return visit.
Well, actually, made me think was okay. I've relied on this arm mount for years.
Yeah.
What I could have done with is actually having a float on the camera.
Yeah.
I never expected it to come off.
Yeah.
I've never had this issue before.
Maybe a thing would be to replace it every few years as a fundamental kind of just as a good practice.
I do check my gear and it all seemed fine, but half the mount was still on my wrist.
Yeah.
And it just cracked off. So
unfortunately, that was the thing. The expensive half is now somewhere in the sea.
But what I've done is I've now invested in another action cam to replace it, and I've bought a float handle which screws into the bottom of the action cam. So on this occasion, instead of having it mounted on my wrist, it's got a wrist strap, so I can swim with it there.
Yeah.
I can hold it in my hand and swim quite merrily. It's not a problem. But it's like a handle. But if you let go of it, it floats to the surface, and it has an orange handle tip.
So when it is floating on the surface, is it still attached to you? Does it have like a line?
No, it's got like you have a lanyard.
Yeah.
Like a lanyard wrist strap.
Right.
That goes to the bottom of the handle. So you can hold the float like a handle, like a camera arm, if you like, and then point your camera wherever you want it, and then let go of it, and it will float, but it's attached to your wrist by the lanyard.
Right.
But if it comes off, it just floats to the surface.
And its float is very bright and orange, so you'll be able to see it.
So I'll be able to see it.
Because we were searching for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I think
with no success.
I actually think that there probably wasn't enough air in the waterproof case
to keep it buoyant enough. Yeah.
So it probably sank slowly, but we were right over the top of a big kelp forest.
Yeah. So
as soon as it gets into there, you're not going to see where it's gone.
No.
So that's gone. There we go. Whatever. But
It has joined the sea.
We will return. Somebody out there, the Bondi treasure hunter, will probably go down there and find it. Know what I found? I found a new GoPro. if you ever watch the Bondi treasure hunter, you'll know what I mean.
Great guy.
So yeah, if you do go down there, Bondi treasure hunter, can you please get me my camera?
Yeah, please, pretty please.
That'd be really bonzer of you, mate.
Yep. He has a big ginger beard and a bandana usually.
Yeah, so there you go. All you need to do is find the footage. That'll be me.
And send it to the Now We Know Show podcast.
Anyway, carrying on with our adventure. So we swam. We saw fantastic undersea sights. We came out onto beautiful secluded beaches. Yeah. Searched all these different caves.
Yeah. I mean, they were pretty deep.
They went in a long way. Yeah. Saw a couple of other people. Got to this lovely secluded beach where a big leisure boat came in.
Oh, that was quite funny. It was like something out of Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah. They just sort of pulled in. It was just us in the caves and this boat that was just floating there. And I think they got off on a couple of paddle boards, didn't they, as well?
Oh, I know that some people were sunbathing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very luxurious, very Mediterranean. And then obviously after the camera incident, we swam round past Gull
Island.
And that's where the water definitely did drop off deep.
Yeah.
So you went right up kind of to the cliff, where the water was up to the cliff, and where you had the kelp forests, as I like to call them. So again, lots of fish. You saw some lovely shoals of fish, and there was kind of a really long, pencil thin blue fish with like a trumpet nose.
Was this the big fish?
Separate fish? No, it was one of the ones you shouted to me and said you could see the shoals of fish. And you went, "There's a shoal of fish over there. There's a shoal of fish over there." Yeah. And this kind of shoal of fish came past. Obviously didn't have a camera. And then they were followed by this very thin blue fish, probably about a foot long, with a long trumpet-like nose.
Wow. I wonder if we can find out what that was.
I'm going to have to see if I can find it. If you know, listeners, please put a comment in there. So we worked our way around and then headed. By that time, we could see our goal. So we finished our swim, heading towards Charlestown. When we hit Charlestown Beach, that's when we got out.
Yeah. Relax.
So we had
get a breather.
We had a fantastic few hours coastal swimming, exploring.
And I mean, it does take you that long.
Honestly, it does. It takes you time. It's not a fight against the sea. It's you work with the sea.
It's leisure. It's leisurely.
Yeah, you're leisurely.
You're not racing against anything.
I'm not doing sort of like let's dive in at one end of Windermere and we're going to swim all the way down Windermere
as fast as we can or anything. No, it's supposed to be fun, leisurely, enjoyable.
We like that. And we've also done spearfishing before because a little note on spearfishing. A few years ago we were down again along that coastline and a chap came down in his full wetsuit, again drag float this time with a flag on it, and he had a net bag, and he had his spear gun. And we spoke to him briefly, and until then I didn't even think about spearfishing. No. But it's perfectly legal. In the UK, you can go spearfishing.
Essentially, it's an underwater slingshot.
Yeah, and you're just catching sea fish as you would if you were fishing.
Yeah.
So, if you bag yourself a couple of mackerel or whatever it is,
there you go.
That's supper sorted. But, so we got to Charlestown. Beautiful place if you've never been there before. If you're lucky enough to get there when the tall ships are in, that's great. Had an ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Something to drink. Cornish pasty.
Yeah, they've had loads of those down there.
We were rather nibbly by that time.
Yes.
Because we always start the day. Now this is probably we've skipped a bit, but we should have said before we start an adventure of coastal swimming. Yeah. What do we do first thing in the morning? Food. In this instance, full Cornish breakfast.
Well, we are talking a decent breakfast. Yeah. We are not talking a bowl of muesli or porridge or whatever. We are talking a decent meal.
You go to a nice,
could be pub, cafe,
wherever, and you go and support the local economy. And you say, "Can I have a full Cornish breakfast?"
You go for the full beast.
Yeah. So you're talking full Cornish breakfast is like a full English breakfast, but slightly Cornish.
Yeah.
So they skipped off on the black pudding, didn't they? And they had a specialised Cornish sausage instead.
Quite nice. Quite nice, actually. I'd recommend that.
And you sit there and you literally fight
fight
to finish eating this huge breakfast.
You feel it afterwards. You do need like an hour or so just to kind
before
of
you get in your wetsuit.
Consume. Yeah.
But once you've had that to start your day,
you are sorted.
You're sorted, because that's the one thing that's going to keep you going on a swim like that.
It's going to keep you powered up.
And then we got out, and as I say, we managed to have an ice cream, have a drink, have a Cornish pasty, and had a lovely walk back along the top.
I think it's the south coast path.
Yeah, coastal path.
Yeah.
Nice walk back then. Obviously, you had your paddleboard with you this time, but it wasn't very windy.
No, it wasn't very windy. I did notice that going down to Carleon Bay, that was a bit windy. Sometimes it would catch the wind a bit, so it was kind of a bit of a beast to kind of control. But I didn't want to set it up on the beach because we wanted to be all self-contained.
We didn't want the backpack, the pump. And all
no,
the rest of it.
because that would have been silly trying to take that.
That's right.
Away.
So that's why we set all the board up in the car park.
Yeah.
So we could bring it back with us. And I suppose the thing is, if you found by the time
it's not the longest of walks between the two places, so it was all right. It was all right.
I mean, we walked the coastal path faster than we swam.
Definitely, yeah.
But that's because we did a lot of exploration.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to really make the adventure an adventure.
Yeah.
But I suppose at the end of the day, if you got out at the finish point of your coastal swim to find that the wind had picked up, you could always deflate the board.
Yeah, fold it up.
Roll it up, stick it under your arm, job done.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so there, we had a fantastic time. So
it was an amazing time.
I think, hopefully, listeners, you would have learned something from us today about wild swimming, about essential equipment, about safety. Go out there, give it a try. Don't throw yourself in there if you've never done snorkeling things before.
Don't go too deep, too fast.
But there is so much you can do.
There is so much to enjoy.
What we haven't covered on this particular one is we didn't take fins with us, which are flippers. A lot of people say flippers, which is fine by me, but I get told off by my good friend and dying friend Julie, who says, they're not flippers, they're fins. So you can take your fins with you, and you can take a weight belt to make you zero buoyancy, so you can literally dive deeper, swim faster.
And then
it's up to you if you want to add those accessories.
Just quickly going back to like the freshwater swimming, a good advice is to actually drink like full fat Coke or a glass of wine afterwards.
Red wine.
Both for enjoyment, but it also helps your internal system.
I don't know. I've got to say, I don't know the
ins and outs.
Well, the facts behind this.
Yeah.
But a lot of
apparently
over the years, I was told by other swimmers and things that if you are swimming, while swimming, then of course there's always the potential you can swallow some bacteria in the water. And I've known people that have swum in the Thames. Pretty probably, obviously, why they've got stomach upsets.
I mean, I've done a similar thing quite nearby to us. I was swimming in a river, and I thought I was going to be able to step onto the base of the river.
Yep.
And it was obviously too deep at the time.
Yep.
And I basically
swallowed a
mouthful of icky water. Yep. And then I was ill for the next few days.
Yeah, you were. I remember that was when you were a lot younger. Yeah. But since then, we've taken the advice of making sure that we have full fat, that's full sugar Coke, or you can get these little bottles of red wine.
Yeah.
Don't know if it works with white wine, but we will recommend red wine or Coke. So when you finish a river swim, drink that. Just enjoy it. And we've never, so far, by doing that, ever had
any ill effects
for stomach bugs. So that might be that's a nice tip to finish off with.
Yes, I think so.
And if nothing else, go for the full bottle of wine.
But don't drive afterwards.
Don't drive afterwards. No driving afterwards. But there we go. So wild swimming, fabulous. It's a wonderful thing. If you've never tried it, please give it a try. But hopefully we've expanded it more than maybe you've seen in the media, because a lot of the time in the media you just think of putting your swimming costume on, your drag float and your rubber swimming hat and swimming in a lake in a big long line of people. It can be a lot more fun than that. That's not saying that that's not fun, but we love getting out there and exploring those more remote places. You know, get up into the hills, up into the mountains where you've got secluded lakes.
Yeah,
places like that.
Some place that you feel like nobody else is seeing. Just you can enjoy it for what it is.
Exactly. So as long as you take safety first, check all your equipment, have a fantastic time.
So before we leave, we're going to choose at random the next topic for our next Now We Know Show flashback exclusive episode for our patrons and YouTube members.
If you've never listened to it, if you're a patron member or YouTube member, then you can listen to these.
Yes, they are exclusive episodes for you.
And they're flashbacks to previous episodes that we've done over the past year.
We've done about 4 or 5 so far, so it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to pick at random this time.
Yeah, well, I have got the random selecting hat, which is the Sherlock Holmes Deer Stalker, which is full of previous
topics from our previous episodes.
I'm going to pull one out. Do you want to unwrap that one?
Okie dokie.
Let's see what the subject's going to be.
This sounds interesting. Good. Okay, so in our last episode we had Godzilla. Okay.
Oh yes, we did.
And we had a good time talking about that for a good 10-15 minutes. Yes. So the topic of the next one, which we're going to be recording and releasing subsequently for you exclusively for our YouTube and Patreon members, we're going to be talking all about Bigfoot.
Oh, it's a Bigfoot flashback.
It's a Bigfoot flashback. So look forward to that. And if you haven't already, join our patrons or become a YouTube member.
Right, Bigfoot. I'm looking forward to it.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes.
That's a big safety first goodbye from Buzz.
And a big paddleboarding goodbye from Zach.
Goodbye.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music and Apple Podcasts. Keep up to date with everything ZWP on Facebook and Instagram, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. And remember to join us on Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access content and exclusive episodes.